I am taking a break today from the series on Hindu nationhood that we had started, and I want to speak about something very specific. This has to do with what else but Kashmir, from where I and 500,000 other Hindus were kicked out 30 years ago. Why is Kashmir important? In fact, I believe that it is more important to you, a non Kashmiri Hindu, than it is to me. But why? Because it is a template, a glaring piece of evidence that shows that just because you believe in peaceful coexistence with other religious groups, that does not imply that others extend the same favor to you. The implications of acknowledging this fact and imbibing the lessons learned from the Kashmiri Hindu experience are nothing short of life saving for you. Today, there was a lot of euphoria on Twitter and other social media platforms regarding a new notification that clarified the status of Kashmiri Hindus and other migrant categories in the context of the new domicile rules that the government has recently brought out. These domicile rules were announced a month and a half back and brought back through the back door the concept of permanent residency, which was the hallmark of Articles 370 and 35A that made a sharp distinction between Indians and Kashmiris. As per the first order, the Class 4 jobs of Jammu and Kashmir would be reserved only for domiciles, that is, those who have lived in J&K for at least 15 years. A second order was quickly passed to pacify the people of the valley, who had started raising the usual bogey of, oh, we are being attacked by the Kafir state and injustice and all that. And this second order expanded the scope of the rules to include all government posts and not just Class 4. But it forgot to specify what happens to people who are displaced, like my community. And today's beautiful notification gave us the assurance that don't worry, you too can apply for government jobs in J&K. Now, if you don't see the irony and absurdity in all of this, let me spell it out for you. One, my community, that is Kashmiri Pandits, we have lived in Kashmir for at least 5,000 years, if not more. Our rightful claim on Kashmir has been reduced to badly drafted circulars written by random government babus. Are we expected to thank the government for throwing crumbs of unsought government jobs at us? Second, the representatives of the government are celebrating a trivial notification as if they've won the Third World War. And three, people who have the least understanding of Jammu and Kashmir politics tend to shout the loudest slogans कि वाह वाह कमाल कर दिया सरकार ने. Now, a reminder, Articles 35A and 370 were removed to fully integrate Kashmir with the rest of India. They were legal hurdles in the process that needed to go. Kudos to the government for the great accomplishment. But now can we please move on? The government seems to think that just because a legal provision has been made inoperative, Kashmiri Hindus should start packing their bags and go back. Yes, all the random announcements of building settlements and offering useless packages to my community and to incentivize our return are just that, empty sloganeering to keep their electorate busy with trivialities. I hate to break the news that we don't need any incentive to go back to Mother Kashmir. We will go back when the causes that led to our eviction are first acknowledged clearly and then thoroughly addressed. It is funny that people think that Hindus can go back to Kashmir when India is losing its grip on Jammu only. Yes, in the last 20 years, Jammu has witnessed a silent demographic invasion with the state-sponsored settlement of Bangladeshi Rohingyas and other Muslims from other parts of the country. If you did not hear that right the first time, yes, state-sponsored through proper legislative action by the state government, whichever party may have been at the helm. A full upward video on what has become of Jammu will soon be out with Ankur Sharma sharing all the necessary details with you. Now, a word on the Indian government's narrative on Kashmir. For what is Kashmir other than a problem of narrative? A profound clash of civilizations that has been trivialized to economics, politics, unemployment and whatnot. But the question is, Why does every government take the exact same course, which involves creating stooges in the valley, nurturing them, putting them on the throne, facing their rebellion, and then finally toppling them, only to replace them with the next puppet? Let me tell you why. Because the government finds it more convenient to maintain the status quo, as it is really the path of least resistance. Solving the problem would mean hard work and setting right historical wrongs. In other words, changing the narrative. Given that it is much easier to retain the status quo, it is a natural choice for any short-sighted democratically elected government looking to retain its hold on power. But what do you do with the uncomfortable questions that get raised so often? Well, you obfuscate the problem itself by distracting your electorate with illusions of incremental changes. This order, that notification, this annexure, that addendum, so on and so forth. What is the way out really? It starts with you, and I'm not saying this for rhetorical effect. The solution to Kashmir lies in the government taking bold, courageous steps like they did in August 2019. Now you may say, well, they took such a bold step last year only, we must be patient with them. But I'm sorry, the people of India do not have the luxury of time anymore. If the government does not aggressively and relentlessly disrupt the status quo, we will not only lose the grip on Kashmir but also on Jammu. On their own, they will never do it. So the onus is on the electorate, the concerned citizen, to not give them a free pass with, oh, at least they are doing something. Let me be very clear, that something is nothing. So here's a list of basic demands that the government must work to fulfill. Their actions must be measured against the following only. 1. Separate homeland for Kashmiri Hindus in the form of a union territory carved out of Kashmir. Ladakh was correctly given the status of a union territory based on the same rationale of liberating Ladakhis from the extremism of the valley. And it is high time that the Kashmiri Hindus are accorded the same privilege. 2. Compensate for the losses suffered by Kashmiri Pandits due to their forced exile. 3. Reverse the demographic invasion of Jammu by immediately evicting the Rohingyas and other intruders from Jammu. 4. Set up a high-level commission of inquiry to nail the perpetrators of the killings and genocide of Kashmiri Hindus in the late 80s and early 90s. Number 5. Table the Genocide and Atrocities Prevention Bill in the Parliament. Its draft has already been made public by Panun Kashmir, a Kashmiri Pandit organization. The purpose of the law would be to make the government recognize the genocide of Kashmiri Hindus, create a policy for its permanent reversal, and finally, to put in place legal provisions that prevent a repeat of Kashmir in other parts of India. Number 6. Correct the historical wrongs against the people of Jammu and institutionalize mechanisms to ensure their equal treatment. As a part of that, stop the ongoing delimitation exercise based on the erroneous census of 2011 and wait for the 2021 census results to come out. Number 7. Give Indians a roadmap of effecting demographic change in the valley. Anything that does not address these points is obfuscation. Let me restate the truism. Kashmir is a civilizational battle. You politicize it at your own peril.